Little wrap up of Strikeforce Miami and a little bit of Prefight UFC 109. Strikeforce Miami, which actually turned out to be a pretty good night. The first fight I got going on in that is Bobby Lashley and Wes Sims. They should have looked a little further to try to find Bobby Lashley a formidable opponent. I mean, come on, you should have asked Wes. Look, have you been in the gym? Have you been training at all? Because Wes Sims got that fight on a week's notice. And obviously he wasn't training, but that's stupid though. If you're a fighter, you should at least somewhat, if you're looking for a fight, you should at least be somewhat of some kind of maintenance training. You should be doing something. You know what I mean? He wasn't doing anything. He's just a silly match. It wasn't even worth the time. I think if Wes Sims maybe trained a little bit more, it would have been a little more of a harder fight. Cat chasing a mouse, you know, more or less. I mean, Wes Sims sucks. And let's just go ahead and throw that out there. Moving on to Robbie Lawler and Melvin Manhoef. That fight had you know, KO written all over it, you know, in favor of Manhoef, man. Manhoef was really taking it to Lawler. It's like, you know what, you got a perfect game going on here. You're doing really awesome. You're doing really well. Don't forget your guard, man. He let his guard down. Sure enough, Lawler came in and got the knockout, you know. I mean, he was out cold, too. And eyes were rolling back, just staring into space. But tough loss for Manhoef, you know. I was kind of wanted to see, you know, a little bit better for him. But at the same time, I kind of like Lawler. You know, he's not the cocky kid he was way back in the day, you know what I mean? He's kind of a humble guy, and he made a comment on how Manhoef was beating the shit out of his leg, which he was, man. He couldn't even stand on that leg after the fight. The fight was done. Robbie Lawler, even though he got the knockout win, he couldn't stand on that leg anymore. He was probably, I guarantee, to this day right now, you know, maybe a couple days after, he's feeling it big time. Big time. Moving on to, this is kind of a comedy match, you know, and I don't want to, you know, bag on a guy or make fun of him or anything, because at the age of 47, it's a pretty amazing feat, I think. You know what I mean? He's, entering the sport, you know, well after the age that most guys leave. His opponent basically looked really silly to start the fight out. He just looked silly. I mean, he's moving around like he's a comic book hero or something. And it was just silly looking, and I don't think he was all that great of a fighter anyhow. You don't want to throw a guy like, you know, Herschel Walker in there for his first fight with some badass. I mean, obviously. He was on the attack and doing well. He pulled out the win against Greg Nagy. I don't know how to say it, man. Never even heard of the guy. TKO, round 3. Moving on to Cyborg versus Coonan. Obviously TKO, round 3 for Cyborg. And Cyborg is like this far away from being a man already, you know. But I mean, let's face it, man. You know, even a lot of guys wouldn't want to tangle with that chick, man. That chick will throw you. But anyway, she pretty much had the upper hand in the whole fight, in my opinion. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of threat from Coonan. Oh, Coonan's really a good submission chick. You know what I mean? She came out that submission win over I can't remember her name. Anyway, she came out that submission win, you know, and she was next in line for the shot at Cyborg. You know, and I kind of thought, you know what? Cyborg ain't careful. You know, this chick could easily submit her. You know, but jeez, man, not even close. It's like Brock Lesnar, you know, powering out of GSP submission or something. You know what I mean? It's just it's a little bit much, but it's just it pales into comparison. I mean, it's just the chick is brute power. You know what I mean? She just couldn't get off any submissions, nothing, and in turn got the KO win. So moving on to the main event, I was a little kind of bummed about this fight. I wanted to see Zarowski at least have a decent match. You know what I mean? Maybe take the decision. We see a lot of. It just seemed to me like I mean, you can't take nothing away from Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is a mouthy son of a bitch or whatever, you know. But man, the guy's good. The guy is damn good. Marius, it seems to me, man, that guy never got started, man, really. I don't know if Nick just had the perfect game plan going, which I would imagine. He never got started, never was able to implement any kind of normal game that he does, you know. I think he's one of them kind of guys that really kind of needs a little bit of reach to, you know, perform some of his attacks that he likes to do, you know, the crazy, you know, flips and kicks and whatnot. And you need some reach to do that, and Nick was closing the gap the entire time. So, I mean, it just kind of nullified his game, you know, which really sucks, but hey, you know, that's what you got to do to get the win. So all in all, man, Strikeforce Miami, I think was a really good card. And especially that it's free on cable. I mean, you can't get better than that, man. Couture versus Coleman, is it really that great of a match? Is it really that, does it need to be hyped up like it's the best, biggest, greatest? No, man, no. It's not that great of a matchup. I mean, yeah, sure, it's two old guys fighting each other, you know, two guys that are, in my opinion, borderline ready to retire. Or may as well retire. Because nobody wants to see, you know, a guy that's built a legacy or anything like that. Nobody wants to see him go down just getting his ass whipped every time. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to see that. And I think that's what these guys are headed for. Because unless UFC gets a bunch of 50-year-olds in or a bunch of 45-year-olds in, The young guys are going to be kicking these guys' asses. I mean, we got to face that. Sure, Coleman did good against Bonner, but how would Coleman do? You know, how would he do against like a Nate Marquardt? You know, Nate Marquardt would beat Coleman's ass, and I think even the difference in weight wouldn't even matter. I think Nate Marquardt would manhandle Mark Coleman, and quite possibly manhandle Couture. There's plenty of other guys in a lower weight class that I think would school these guys. You know, they're continuing because they love it, obviously. You know, they love the fight game and they love winning and everything, and they're still doing it. I just don't see the point, because when you go against younger fighters, you're going to lose. You know what I mean? Maybe not all of them, but if you're beating Stephan Bonner, that's no amazing feat. Stephan Bonner ain't that great. Matt Serra and Frank Trigg, it's not an exciting matchup at all by no means, but I think they are the two kind of fighters that are like neck and neck right now, so I could make for a half-ass decent fight. Trigg's coming off knockout loss to Koscheck. Matt Serra's coming off, I think, a decision loss to Matt Hughes. And I think the guy that does lose this fight's going to get cut. I think that's just the way the UFC is, man. You stack up enough losses, it's Cutsville. You know, that's a whole other subject, you know. Why is Keith Jardine still here? But I like Jardine, man, but Jardine is one of them guys that he's either kicking your ass or he's either getting his ass whipped. There's no in between. But so Matt Serra and Frank Trigg's not going to be amazing. Should be a half-ass decent fight, like I said. Damian Maia's coming off a knockout loss to Nate Marquardt. Dan Miller, I believe, I might be mixing this up with something else. I think he's coming off a win, but he's still much lower on the ladder. Yeah, Damian Maia's an awesome submission guy. Never got a chance to really prove that, you know, or even, you know, implement that game in the Marquardt fight. Marquardt just, I mean, it was like Damian Maia came flying in, Marquardt landed the shot, done. And it was like 15 seconds. But moving on to Mike Swick versus Paulo Tiago. Could be a tough road for Swick. Paulo Tiago, his last win was a knockout over Josh Koscheck. I think Swick is coming off a knockout win, but before that he's coming out a knockout loss. But anyway, Swick and Paulo Tiago is going to be explosive. I mean, like I said, I kind of give a little bit of edge to Paulo Tiago. Swick wins, man, badass. You know, because I like Mike Swick. He had some vicious knockouts, humble guy, not a dickhead. You know, there's two fights on this card I'm really looking forward to. That's one of them, and the next one is Nate Marquardt versus Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen's been kind of running his mouth a little bit about Anderson Silva, saying he doesn't like the hype that's been built about Anderson Silva. He said, you know, stuff along the lines of, you know, they all, you know, like the American public, you know, is you know, saying that he's the king and all this, when really Anderson Silva can't stand any of them and stuff like that. Anderson Silva can't stand any of the American public. I know, it could be true, I don't know, but I think he's a better person than that. But Chael Sonnen, I don't think is in the league of Nate Marquardt. I think this is one of the matches where, okay, Chael Sonnen's been doing pretty good, so, and Nate Marquardt is ready for a bigger match than this, but you can't always keep climbing up and climbing up and climbing up. You gotta. So this is Chael Sonnen's kind of shining moment. Yet you know, do you belong up there with Nate Marquardt? I don't think so, though. He's a decent puncher, good wrestler. But Nate Marquardt, in my opinion, like I said, I think Nate Marquardt's at a much higher level than Chael Sonnen, and I think he's going to prove it with this fight. 29-7, great record, man. Great record. Very experienced, from Pride. I think one of his only losses in the last year or two is Anderson Silva. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but I know his last loss, his only loss in a long time, has been to Anderson Silva. So we'll see, man. We'll see how that one pans out. And moving on to the main event, Randy Couture and Mark Coleman. I'm not that excited about it, man. I'm really not. I think it's going to be kind of a lay around who's going to tire out first kind of match, because they're both good wrestlers, and that's their background. They're both good wrestlers. I'd say maybe it'd be really, really smart for Coleman to come in just swinging bombs. You know what I mean? Because chances are, if he lands a good one, not saying he's going to pound him out, but it might be good to do that right in the get-go and then back off, conserve your energy a little bit, maybe try to take him down. You know what I mean? And Couture's been brushing up on submissions, which is kind of smart, because if he gets on his back against Coleman, it probably wouldn't be all that pretty. But is it going to be devastating? No. No. I don't think either one of these guys is going to have a devastating knockout over the other. Just not at this day in their career. Like I said, I'm not that excited about it, but I'll tune in, and I'm hoping for a decent match out of it, you know. I wouldn't be surprised for a decision, you know, because like I said, I don't think either one of these guys is going to knock each other out. So, but that's it, man. And I appreciate you guys, all the friend requests and everything, and subscriptions and stuff, man. Very cool. We're in the high 80s now, I think, you know, 85, 86, somewhere in there, which is awesome, you know, because I've only been here since September of 09, so we've got 6 months in. 6 months in, 80 subscriptions is pretty good. Pretty good in my opinion. So, anyway, cool, man. Hope you guys like it. Comment. You know, let me know what you think. And thank you much. See you next time.